I just finished watching Manchester City versus Atletico Madrid, and all I can say is Enzo Maresca is changing Manchester City. When a new manager comes in, it's obvious they're going to make quite a couple changes in terms of how the team is set up compared to the previous regime. But Enzo Maresca has done exactly that, but he's made one particular player very, very important, and that is Mateo Kovacic. He is almost the key in build-up so far for Manchester City in terms of when Donnarumma gets the ball from a goal kick, the two centre-backs obviously pull it wide, the full-backs push on, but Mateo Kovacic is the midfielder tasked coming deep to collect the ball, to try and create openings in that initial build-up space and create those overloads. He hasn't really trusted Nico Gonzalez so far from the start, but Mateo Kovacic is getting the full faith from Enzo Maresca because we know Kovacic on his day, actually not even on his day, he's one of the most press resistant midfielders in the world, full stop. We saw his brilliance in the World Cup and we're seeing his brilliance again today. There were so many times where Donnarumma will find Mateo Kovacic and he would just pop it onto the two centre backs who then have space to drive into. He's so crucial for Man City. And it'll be very, very interesting to see when Elliot Anderson obviously comes back into that Manchester City side, where he actually fits in terms of that build-up aspect of things. Because I think Mateo Kovacic, especially if Rodri leaves, might be the most comfortable midfielder for Manchester City in that area. Now, another thing that I've realised with how Maresca set up his Manchester City side is his wingers are a lot more higher and wide and a lot more willing to run in behind. You see Man City so far under Maresca be a lot more vertical, which is not something, let's say, they were under Pep Guardiola. For example, you guys can see the example on the screen here. Mateo Kovacic gets the ball. You guys can see Semenyo on the final line of the defender making that run in behind. And it wasn't just Semenyo making those runs today. Savinho on the other side was doing the exact same thing. And we've seen this be a constant theme throughout pre-season so far for Manchester City, where the wingers are keeping high, they're keeping wide, but they're willing to make those vertical runs. And that is the key difference that we're seeing so far in comparison to last season. Now, the big question actually for Maresca will be, how does he use Doku when he's back? Because Doku was so comfortable dropping a bit deeper and actually running with it, carrying with the ball. He's one of the best in the world at that. You probably don't want to use Doku how he's maybe using a Semenyo/Savinho right now for the Manchester City side. It gives Maresca something to think about, which I'm very interested to see how that develops. Now, another thing that we're realizing is the importance of Phil Foden for Enzo Maresca in terms of when Manchester City are pressing, they're pressing in that 4-2-4 shape. That means Phil Foden, as you guys can see on the screen, is the one pushing up into one of those striker roles, let's say. Cherki probably doesn't have the same athleticism, same energy to actually push forward compared to a Phil Foden, which means I actually think Foden's going to play a massive role for Maresca. But there were a couple of times where I think the City kind of overcommitted and maybe, listen, on another day, if Atlético Madrid maybe had a different keeper, a bit more of a keeper that's comfortable on the ball in comparison to Oblak, you guys can see the example on the screen here, where they could have easily played out to the fullback. That is obviously going to be a key issue for Man City in terms of how they actually cover the width when they're pressing in that 4-2-4 shape, especially because the wingers actually do get quite narrow when they're pressing. Now, another reason Phil Foden is so important to Enzo Maresca is build-up. City at times were building up in a 3-2 shape, and you guys saw Phil Foden was the one coming deep to create that 2 at times because he's so comfortable in between those lines, in between plays, whereas Reinders probably wants to play a bit more outside of the block, which, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. For example, you even saw today, there was a point where Reinders was playing outside the block, he gets the ball, plays a nice pass down the line to Savinho. Like I said, Savinho, wingers, vertical runs, you guys saw that as well. But I just do think Phil Foden is going to be the key man to Enzo Maresca's Man City. Now, another big talking point in my opinion today was Omar Marmoush. You guys may be thinking I'm going to speak about his 2 goals, but I'm not. I'm going to speak about his first half performance because it was very frustrating. You guys saw Semenyo and Savinho today. They had their beatings on their fullbacks, and a couple times, especially in the first half, they put dangerous balls into the box. Where was Marmoush? Nowhere to be seen. He was very frustrating in terms of his anticipation and movement in the penalty box wasn't good enough in the first half. You guys saw in the second half, Semenyo, Savinho again causing damage, and then Marmoush's movement, anticipation slightly improved, and he got himself 2 goals. But in the first half, City should have been 3-0 up, and you could argue if Erling Haaland's on the pitch, the game's done. Because those are the areas that Haaland thrives in, and those are the areas Marmoush has to improve in. But overall, I think that was a very positive performance from Manchester City. Beating Atlético Madrid 3-1, not easy. Of course, they have the Community Shield next week against Arsenal. Let's see how they do. But overall, very good performance for today. A lot to work on, but a lot of positives. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to the channel.